This is Josh Reeves, and you're listening to the Mile High Church podcast. All of us at some point in our lives are touched by grief. Dr. Alan Wolfelt is one of the premier speakers on grief in the entire country, and he's going to be speaking on understanding your grief Wednesday, April 30th, 7 to 9 p.m. There's a workshop happening the next day if you're local, but you can get tickets to watch online. Check out milehighchurch.org for more information.
Our theme this morning is Tree of Life. The tree of life being a symbol across all spiritual traditions. It's a symbol of spiritual transformation. It's a symbol of being initiated into higher levels of consciousness. And it's a symbol of what is in heaven being grounded right here in our own earth. One of my favorite stories where the tree of life shows up is in the story of the Buddha and his enlightenment under the Bodhi tree. Now, I'd always thought about the Buddha story of enlightenment being a spiritual superhero origin story. But then I became a parent, and I realized that at its heart, the story of the Buddha is the story of a father who wants to prevent his son from experiencing sorrow and suffering. I don't believe in original sin, this idea that each of us is born with something innately wrong in us that needs to be fixed or saved. But if there is an original sin, perhaps it's each of us parents. Before we bring our child into this world, we stop and think, because we're bringing our child into a world that's designed to break their heart. It's designed to break their heart. It's designed to grow their heart, to bind their heart, to heal their hearts, but it breaks all of our hearts eventually. What makes the father in the story of the Buddha so unique is that he actually has the means to try and keep his child from suffering. He orders that the young Prince Siddhartha never leave the kingdom and never see anything to do with sorrow. But young Siddhartha, he's touched, as we'll talk about, by the divine feminine, this divine principle of curiosity, of ever-expanding desire, and especially of awakening, the desire to wake up and live a new way of life. So he escapes the kingdom, and he encounters for the first time sorrows. He sees an elderly person who's close to death. He sees a sick person, and he sees death itself. And it invokes something, and it invokes this feeling, and he doesn't know what it is. And the feeling is so strong he can't articulate it that he commits to finding out what it is. So he embarks on a religious quest. He tries every religion available to him in India. If he was alive today, he would let in all the Jehovah's Witnesses. He'd take all the lessons of the Latter-day Saints. He would call that number so he could get a copy of L. Ron Hubbard's Dianetics. But nothing works. Nothing can help him articulate this feeling in his heart. And then he encounters the Bodhi tree. And he sits underneath its branches. And he declares, I am not leaving this tree until I know what this feeling is. And he invents meditation. And on his meditative path, under the tree, similar to the temptation of Christ, he's tempted by a being called Mara, meaning illusion. It looks like the Cookie Monster ate some bad medicine there. And Mara tempts Siddhartha with lust, with power, with pride. But the Buddha endures, and he becomes enlightened, which is not to become some supernatural perfect being. It's the articulation of this feeling in his heart. What is the correct response to this feeling I have in the sight of sorrow and suffering? I know what it is. It's compassion. Compassion. What is the correct way to respond to yourself when you are in sorrow? Compassion. What is the correct way to respond to someone you love who is suffering? compassion. What is the highest and best way to respond to the sufferings we see in this world, as angry and as desperate at times as they make us feel? Compassion. That's what enlightenment is. Compassion. The great Shel Silverstein wrote a wonderful book for children entitled The Giving Tree.
Once there was a tree, and she loved a little boy. And every day the boy would come, and he would gather her leaves and make them into crowns and play king of the forest. He would climb her trunk and swing from her branches and eat apples. And they would play hide and seek, and when he was tired, he would sleep in her shade. And the boy loved the tree very much, and the tree was happy.
What a wonderful metaphor for Emmanuel, or God with us, that each of us has our own giving tree, ever offering its shade, its fruit, and its branches for our betterment and evolution as human creatures. The tree of life shows up in the beginning of the Hebrew Scriptures, right in the creation myths of Genesis. We have the story of Adam and Eve. Again, a story, I would argue, about a father who wants to keep his children from the sorrows of the world. Do not eat of that tree of the knowledge of good and evil. But Eve, who is not villain or temptress, but feminine power, realized and embodied. She has this principle. She has this something that perhaps even the gods don't have. This divine curiosity, this ever-expanding desire for life, and that principle of awakening. She is called, just like Pandora or Persephone, to eat of the fruit of the tree, and she helps man along. And human consciousness is given birth to. The consequence, however, is that it includes sorrow and suffering. God becomes so concerned at the rapid growth of his creations that he actually puts an armed guard in front of another tree, the tree of the knowledge of eternal life. What does it mean to know that there is a tree of life ever calling you to eat its fruit so that you can rise into greater and greater levels of becoming and of awareness?
But time went by, and the boy grew older, and the tree was often alone. Then one day the boy came to the tree, and the tree said, "Come, boy, come and climb up my trunk and swing from my branches and eat apples and play in my shade and be happy." "I'm too big to climb and play," said the boy. "I want to buy things and have fun. I want some money. Can you give me some money?" "I'm sorry," said the tree, "but I have no money. I have only leaves and apples. Take my apples, boy, and sell them. Sell them in the city. Then you will have money and you will be happy." And so the boy climbed up the tree and gathered her apples and carried them away. And the tree was happy.
The tree of life speaks to us throughout the narrative of the life of Jesus. Jesus compares the kingdom of heaven to a tall tree with long branches that the birds come to love to rest upon. He says that practitioners of his teaching, that's you and me, we are like trees. We must always ground ourselves in the awareness of a holy presence so that we can grow and bear fruits into our lives. Jesus curses a barren fig tree as an example of it not being rooted in the life. And when we are not rooted in that divine life, we cannot bear fruit. We wither away. In the mystical Gospel of John, Jesus speaks, fully embodying the Christ consciousness in life. He says, "I am the true vine, and my Father is the gardener. Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away. And every branch that bears fruit, he trims clean so that it might bear more fruit. Remain in me and I in you. Just as the branch cannot bear fruit from itself unless it remains in the vine, so neither can you unless you remain in me. I am the vine and you are the branches, the one who remains in me and I in him. This one bears plentiful fruit because apart from me, you can do nothing." Let us not plant ourselves in the garden of self-rejection, in the garden of pain and bitterness, but where we can meet our soul in that tree of life that is itself an endless rootedness in the highest truth of who we are, so that we can allow the life of that tree to prune any part of us that does not belong or no longer belongs, so we can bear the fruits of our becoming.
But the boy stayed away for a long time. And when he came back, the tree was so happy she could hardly speak. "Come, boy," she whispered, "come and play." "I am too old and sad to play," said the boy. "I want a boat that will take me far away from here. Can you give me a boat?" "Cut down my trunk and make a boat," said the tree. "Then you can sail away and be happy." And so the boy cut down her trunk and made a boat and sailed away. And the tree was happy, but not really.
In the narrative of Jesus, God sends his child to be sacrificed by the sufferings and the sorrows of the world. I would personally argue that we are all children of God, brought into this world certainly to face at times our own version of crucifixion, our own sorrows, our own heartbreak, our own setbacks. Jesus' story is a devastating one. From an early age, he has deep and profound inner knowing. He's taught and mentored and then baptized by John. He goes into the desert to refine his ministry and his message. A message that God is unconditional love. A message that God is like a parent who loves their child without doubt and certainty, strong like the roots of a tree. And he brings this message into the first century, and no one gets it. No one understands it. In fact, so many people, they reject it and him. He experiences the rejection of his family, of his friends, of his followers, of his fellow Jews, of the Roman authorities. All throughout, he's mastering this practice that he calls forgiveness. Forgiveness being the way that we practice that unconditional love of God for one another, no one withheld, shining on the just and the unjust alike. That love is there. He practices that even to the extent of him being murdered on the cross. He comes to his grand realization, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." For the Buddha, the right response to sorrow and suffering is compassion. For Jesus, the right response to sorrow and suffering is forgiveness. Compassion, forgiveness. When I really think about it, I can't see much difference between the two. Where is it time in your life to start giving yourself and others compassion? What is that sorrow or that suffering that's taking place in your world right here and right now that you can choose to transcend through self-compassion and outward forgivingness of the love and Spirit of God? All we have to do is allow ourselves to ground in that tree of life, that tree of love, that tree of endless and infinite Spirit. Ernest Holmes, our founder, gives us advice for being with the tree of life.
It may be necessary to cultivate your garden, to uproot the weeds and strengthen our rows, planting new seeds, new ideas, broader visions, deeper realizations of life. New aspirations must be bedded here, fertilized with the hope and the conviction of faith, the beauty of wholeness, and the quietness of peace. Watch your garden carefully, guard it patiently, waiting for a new harvest, for you shall reap what you have sowed. So often, into your garden, go there, be present with the garden, sitting under the tree of life in cool, quiet communion. You will find fresh inspiration. God will go forth anew into creation through each one of you.
Don't we love our ministers? We love you, Dr. Patty. Buddha experiences his enlightenment via the Bodhi tree. Christ begins to experience his resurrection, nailed to a cross, hung up on the tree of life that transforms and transcends his suffering to find something new. What does it mean for you to identify your tree of life? That tree of life that is not metaphorical, although we have to speak about it metaphorically. It's the presence of God, of Spirit, alive around you, always giving itself. We may forget it, but it never forgets us, and it always calls us back. Viktor Frankl, in his Man's Search for Meaning, about surviving concentration camps during World War II, he speaks of, as a psychologist, trying to assist a younger woman who's dying. She shares a bed with several other souls, the room filled with bodies, and yet he's able to speak to her. And she shares that she is actually accepting her fate, the fate of her incoming death. She shares that she knows now how naive she was in the past and how she focused on the wrong things, and now here she was. She shared that her new best friend was a tree that she could barely see outside of the window. Frankl looked and saw just the little branches of a chestnut tree with a flower on it. And she shared with Frankl that the tree speaks to her. And concerned about her mental health and well-being, Frankl said, "What does it say?" It says, "I am life. I am eternal life." As many of you know, I lost my dad last year. And when he was on life support, I sang a little prayer every day for him. A devotee of the religion of rock and roll, I chose a John Lennon song called "Grow Old With Me." It was one of the last songs that John Lennon ever wrote. Grow old along with me. The best is yet to be. When our time has come, we will be as one. God bless our love. God bless our love. One more verse, I swear. Grow old along with me. Two branches of a tree face the setting sun. When the day is done, God bless our love. God bless our love. And in knowing that my dad's life was temporal. I just thought of his marriage with my mother. 49 years together. And both would pass away, and I will too, but I'd like to think there's something about that connection, that love we share with one another that is eternal, that lasts forever. After my dad died, all my daughter wanted to read every night was The Giving Tree. And I'd open up and I'd start to read, and tears would start to come down my cheeks, which I came to realize is why she wanted to read it. She got a little kick out of seeing Daddy cry. And at first, I think it was because I was thinking of him as a young boy, playing, frolicking. And I was in love with this idea that he had the tree of life always with him, offering its fruit, its branches, its shade, everything he needed all the way through the journey of his life.
And after a long time, the boy came back again. "I'm sorry, boy," said the tree, "but I have nothing left to give you. My apples are gone." "My teeth are too weak for apples," said the boy. "My branches are gone," said the tree. "You can't even swing on them." "I am too old to swing on branches," said the boy. "My trunk is gone," said the tree. "You cannot climb." "I'm too tired to climb," said the boy. "I am sorry," sighed the tree. "I wish that I could give you something, but I have nothing left. I am just an old stump. I am sorry." "I don't need very much now," said the boy. "Just a quiet place to sit and rest. I am very tired." "Well," said the tree, an old stump is good for sitting and resting. Come, boy, sit down and rest." And the boy did. And the tree was happy.
I then came to realize that my dad was my giving tree, that he had spent his whole life giving his branches, his leaves, his fruit to his family until he was just an old stump. But he's the best stump I ever knew. Root yourself in the tree of life every day, in the knowledge that you are a child of a higher life, that you are here not just to endure the sorrows of the world, but to transcend them with an inner knowing and the radiant light within you. Root yourself in it every day. Allow this tree of life to fill your activities, your body, your connections. Let it prune what no longer belongs in your life and bring forth the fruits of your greater becoming. Know that as this giving tree is there for you, it now becomes who you are as well. You are the tree of life. Give of your branches, your fruit, your shade, and your life, and we will find where we meet in the eternal. None of us excluded. All of us in that oneness and in that awareness of our spiritual magnificence and of our divine identity. Amen.
Thanks for listening to the Mile High Church podcast. This podcast is made possible by the generous contributions from listeners like you. To make a donation, please visit milehighchurch.org.